Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is North Carolina Living, and we're living it up here in the mountains of Western North Carolina. We've spent a lot of time trying to create a beautiful garden oasis, and I really enjoy getting out here and spending time in my backyard. And I've got so many beautiful plants, and I've got a lot of different types of plants. And one of the things I've been getting into recently, this has been over the last couple of years as a progression, slow progression, is I'm getting into the art of bonsai. Now, I'm not a professional, or you wouldn't consider this traditional bonsai, but it's something I like to experiment with, and just as an amateur, I like to, just the aesthetic of it is very appealing to me. I love that concept of a small tree that looks like it's hundreds of years old in a tiny little pot. It looks really, really cool. So today I wanted to cover a couple of little bonsai projects that I have going on. I've had several comments in the comment sections about, hey, you should try bonsai or get into bonsai. I am kind of dabbling in some bonsai. Again, I'm not at any level of professional bonsai, but I certainly enjoy the concept of it. And I wanted to take the opportunity today to share a little bit of it with you. So check these out. So usually I have this set up on my deck, and I enjoy sitting up on the deck looking down on my garden. But then I have a couple of bonsais sitting up there with me that I can enjoy up close. I thought I'd bring it down here in the garden setting, give you guys a little bit of just a show and tell of a few of my bonsai projects that I got going on. The bonsai concept is really interesting. There's a lot of ways you can approach it. I know a lot of times the typical approach to bonsai is taking a large size and then cutting it, stumping it, and then letting it regrow off of that stump so you have this large base to start with. But I kind of like the approach of taking young trees and putting them in a nice bonsai pot and just kind of shaping them as I go and as they grow. And so it's a little bit different approach, but I think with bonsai, the cool thing about it is that you can take whatever approach you want. You know, it's your own creative process, and it's your own, idea of what looks good and what's appealing to you. It's not really about, trying to follow some strict guideline as to this is how you have to do bonsai. So for me, I like the freedom in that. I like to just experiment with it and kind of create my own, ideas and visions of what I think a beautiful bonsai looks like. So I'll start out here with this first one. Now, this is a really interesting cultivar. And sometimes when you're thinking about, what you want to bonsai with, you want to try to think about the cultivar and what potential it can bring to, that creative process. Starting with the name on this is one that the name of it really appealed to me. This is Acer palmatum Wabibito. Now, I've seen this also listed as Wabibito, but I believe the translation loosely means lonely person. So it makes more sense in the Wabibito kind of separation in those two words. But and I like the concept of that name because in the art of bonsai, typically you're having a lone tree, a single tree that is separate from everything else in the world around us and in its own little world of the bonsai pot. And so a lonely person, or Wabibito, I thought was just such a fitting name of a cultivar to try and do some bonsai. Now, on top of that, the foliage on this thing is really, really cool. It's got some light kind of green on green variegation, very irregular shaped leaves. This thing is just super interesting to me. I love the little serration on the edges, kind of the long skinny lobes. But what's cool is, each leaf is a little bit different. It's there's a little bit of light variegation. It's hard to tell. Maybe on this leaf right here, you can kind of see there's some green on green. Where it just kind of, you know, mutates that leaf just a little bit and gives you a little bit of textural differences on each lobe. But really nice cultivar. Not really seen out there very much. Quite a rare cultivar, really. I've had this before in my garden in Oklahoma, and the very first time I learned of this cultivar, this was a tree that was sent to me as a gift from Carl Munn, a great friend of mine who was just enjoying my garden whenever I was sharing it in Oklahoma, and he wanted to send me some plants to put out in my garden. So he introduced me to this cultivar, and I had one there in Oklahoma. Now, when I came out here to Western North Carolina, I was always kind of on the search for this, and I happened to find one of these at Mr. Maple. And so this is the one I got from there, and it had this great shape to it. I'll kind of try to get in here and show you a little bit of the structure on this. It's got some really nice branching, and I felt like it just spoke to me in the fact that it looked like a very large old tree, but in a miniature size. And that's kind of what my thought process, you know, goes into when I'm thinking about selecting a particular plant for bonsai, is just the structure. Now, obviously, as time goes, I'll have to try to continue to manipulate this structure to contain its size. But I think this is going to lend very well to some pruning, like some directional pruning, to try to keep accentuating this beautiful structure to it. And it just really has a great shape. And I think that's what's so appealing in most bonsai, is that you have this amazing structure to a very small tree. Now, just to accentuate on top of that, you know, different things to think about when you're doing a bonsai is I wanted something to really contrast. So if you look at this blue, nice shallow blue pot, it just really pops against that light kind of lime green color. And I also like to kind of put a few things in with the bonsai pot. So check this out. This is a little sleeping bison here. This was carved out of soapstone. But one of my homies, man, he's one of my good friends, Corbin Wildcat. Shout out to Corbin. Love you, brother. But this thing right here, man, is so cool. He gifted this to me, and it's a prized possession. And I thought this sleeping bison underneath this bonsai Wabibito was just such a cool concept. I love just the idea of it. You know, this is what you could see this scene somewhere in a pasture or a field with a giant mature tree and a sleeping bison underneath enjoying the shade of it. I love that about bonsai. You can create a scene or a landscape or a picture in your mind, and then you can kind of recreate it in that bonsai art. It is a form of art, I think. And that's what makes it so unique, is every person, you know, their expression of art is different. So that's why I always try to kind of think outside the box of traditional rules or, you know, concepts of bonsai, because to me, art is an expression of myself. And so the way I approach it is certainly different than anyone else. It's unique to me and what I see and how I express it and how I create it. And I think you know, for the world of bonsai, I think it can be a lot more approachable if you think about it in that way, where you don't have to feel like you're trying to live up to some kind of expectation. You can just approach it in how you feel comfortable with it and create something beautiful and create something really unique and exciting to look at. But the other bonsai I have here is a classic. This is one that a lot of people know. This is Acer palmatum Mikawa yatsubusa. Such a classic Japanese maple cultivar. It has that really dwarf habit, very compact, tightly layered leaves, beautiful green color, and some nice little, you know, new growth flushes over top that, a little bit lighter green. So lots of great contrast in that. But Mikawa yatsubusas are always so unique in their shape. You could have, you know, 10 Mikawa yatsubusas lined up, and they're all going to have a different shape. So I love that about this cultivar. It's very unique in its shape and design as it grows and its structure. And I happened to stumble upon this one in a greenhouse one day at Mr. Maple, and it just spoke to me as the perfect little bonsai tree. Now, try to kind of get in here and show you a little close-up of this. I love the white pot too. I think it was a nice choice to contrast with that lush green color. Really lends well to just the whole design and feel of this beautiful Mikawa. You know, this is also another thing to think about when you're doing bonsai, is just kind of, you know, the different cultivars you can select from. And really, I think sometimes with bonsai, I think there's this idea that, you know, you're limited to what you can do with bonsai. But really, you could pick any kind of tree. You could pick any type of maple or conifer or azalea. I've seen so many different plants that have turned out to be amazing bonsai, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of care, and just a lot of you know, planning and you know, maintenance, pruning techniques. Some people get into wiring. I'm not a huge fan of the wiring. I think that there are other ways to control the growth and direction of your plants. I like kind of more of that, like, directional pruning with bonsai instead of wiring. Try to, you know, cut back in areas that I don't want growth to continue, which forces it to grow in other areas that I do. So I take a little bit different approach. I don't do any wiring. I'd like to experiment with it. You know, I think there's a place for it. Obviously, you know, you can do some wiring to create that general shape to begin with, and then you can remove that wire and kind of work with it once you have it in position. So definitely, you know, wiring can be kind of a short-term solution to creating a design that you like, or a certain, you know, direction, or, you know, placement of branches and things like that. But a lot of times, if you pick the right plant to begin with, you don't have to force it as much to do what you're hoping it to do. And I really like the structure on this one. I've been kind of playing around with putting some little rocks in the root system here at the bottom with that nice root flare. I think that's also known as nabari, where you have this, you know, the root flare is kind of above ground level, and you can see some of those roots protruding from the trunk. Really adds a lot of cool just look to the tree in a bonsai when you do that real high kind of root flare. And got a little piece of stone here. I can't remember what kind of stone that is, but I also have a little stone here in the roots of the Wabibito. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys watching today's video. I just wanted to give an opportunity here for you guys to check out a couple of my bonsai projects. I love all the comments, man. I listen to what you guys are commenting in the comment section, and I saw a couple of comments about bonsai, and so I was like, yes, let me show some. That's a great idea. I wanted to show a couple of my little bonsai projects with you guys, and hopefully it'll inspire you to give it a try. You know, there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, fear or anxiety about bonsai, and it's a little intimidating, but I think if you can just let loose and pick a beautiful tree that you want to attempt it on, and be willing to take those risks, and because, man, the reward for what you get, I think, is just way outweighs the risks. You know, and a lot of experience in life comes from some failures, but then that gives you even more appreciation for the success. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully this is something that you guys enjoyed, and let me know in the comments if you want to see some other different garden ideas, and or if you have some ideas for me, let me know, because I'll try to get out here and share some of that with you. Appreciate you watching. Take care.